have the bike shorts on underneath to protect my thumb. Oh, no, because I need the camera. Okay, bye.
Bye.
So this main Tucson loop bike path is 54 miles, so they say. And I usually ride 10 to 15 miles, occasionally up to 35. But the terrain here is pretty flat. Seemed like this should be no big deal. Now, I happen to have a terrible sense of direction, unfortunately, but the loop bike path is supposed to be well marked with blue signs all along the way. My bike was clanky and heavy. The tires were definitely underinflated, but it was no big deal. It was a beautiful day, and I was energized by my 20-ounce cup of Trader Joe's vanilla roast and my slice of Ezekiel toast with cream cheese and apple. And the fact that I hadn't headed out until 1 p.m. was not of any concern. What was of some concern was my inability to navigate, and I soon became entirely disoriented. I had no clue as to which direction I was going. The path crosses over the wash numerous times, and I was completely confused.
So keep going this direction.
Okay, thank you. All right, how far are you guys gonna go?
Well, we're headed.
Okay. All right, awesome. Thank you. Okay, bye. Enjoy. The recumbent guys seemed equally confused that I wanted to do the loop. They basically told me that I can't do the loop because it's 55 miles. They acted like this was not an option for me. So, did they steer me wrong on purpose? I will probably never know. At some point, it became clear that I was backtracking. I spotted a familiar landmark on the other side of the wash. Darn it. Those damn recumbent people. Weirdos. Anyway, I got back on track. No big deal. Not sure how many miles that added on, but right here, right now, just lovely. Birds, trees, stillness. I ate a few of my healthy homemade cookies. I drank some of my water with Celtic sea salt in it. And I was on my way, confident that I was making decent time and that this loop was no big deal. I hit a stretch alongside a big road, saw some mining or perhaps landfill activity, and then entered into a beautiful stretch, which I believe is called Fantasy Island. There were some off-road paths to the left. It's a long, isolated stretch with cholla and saguaro cactus for miles. Not another soul to be seen, except for one walking man who I did not stop to engage with. At this point in the ride, I could tell that the day was not quite so young anymore, and I had my first pang of concern. Rather than find a beautiful bench to sit on and eat my egg and cheese sandwich, I stood by a loop sign on the side of the road and scarfed it down as I watched a train go by. No more messing around. I needed to finish this loop, so I got on my way through the Julian Wash section. Very lovely. However, my quads were talking to me, and not kindly. The wind was picking up, and I was not feeling my energetic earlier self. But still, I was fine. It was no big deal. I passed a cool vintage airplane graveyard or museum, went through tons of tunnels and by lots of solar panels. The wind was getting stronger. I was biking slower, but no big deal. Just following the blue signs, following the light at the end of the tunnel, praying these dogs don't attack me out here on my own. Shoot, that was way more adrenaline than solo walking man. Then came the section where you're actually biking in the wash. That was weird and creepy. I didn't like it. Then you're gonna have to navigate through some city streets for a while. So keep your eyes peeled for the blue signs. It was around this point in the ride that I realized how unhappy my quads were. That's quadriceps, the front of your thigh, was hurting. And I stopped to raise my seat and realized that I had been riding with the seat several inches too low, which was putting extra stress on my legs. I continued on, minus my former joyful attitude. It had become a nose to the grindstone chore, but I was still determined to finish. It was when I entered South Tucson that it first hit me that I might not make it to the finish line of this darn simple 54-mile loop. My legs were like blocks of concrete. I tried to find working muscles by altering my position on the bike, but it was to no avail. My legs were shutting down, and it was mind over matter to keep going. I later researched this phenomenon, which I had never experienced, and I read all about glycogen depletion and dehydration, both of which were likely at play. I was getting cold. I felt like I was pushing through thick molasses. It was getting dark, and I had no lights. I was armed only with concrete, non-functioning legs and a terrible sense of direction. I knew I had to call it quits. I pulled over at some park, and I shared my location with my guardian angel.
Oh, you're gonna get freaking lost out there in the dark.
I feel like a failure.
You just gotta start earlier.
I failed.
You gotta start earlier.